Okay. Um, we're going to start on the back. So just make your way. Oh, actually, we'll need a block as well, just in case you don't have one handy. Let's grab it now. So coming to lie onto your back, soles of the feet onto the ground. Organizing yourself there for a moment so that you feel nice and settled for the first moments of our practice. So just start to feel into the structures of the body that are in contact with the earth here. So the soles of the feet, back of the pelvis, the shoulders. Start to notice subtle or more obvious muscle tone. And see if you can feel a sense of the breath and how it's moving through your body this morning. See if you can tune into the felt sensation of the movement of your breath. And as you are here for a little while, see if you notice if anything starts to change in your experience, that sort of deeper listening into the body and sensation. Notice if or what level of volume your thoughts are at this morning. And see if by just tuning into more sort of physical sensations that maybe that volume starts to lessen. Maybe. So bring your attention now just to this area on the pelvis, this bone, known as the sacrum. So the sacrum is kind of like a keystone in between the two sort of larger, almost elephant-like shapes of the pelvis. See if you can sort of have a sense that even though the pelvis is all quite, a strong sort of shape, that there is a little bit of movement there and there is a joint, right? So it's not totally rigid. So just start to ever so gently roll towards your lower back, as though you're trying to flatten your lower back onto the ground. Very subtle movement. And as you do this, you might just get a sense of kind of the shape of the upper part of your pelvis, sacrum. And then very, very slowly, just start to roll back across the sacrum as though you're rolling towards your tailbone. And maybe you get a sense that it's not quite flat, right? It's like a little bit curved. Yeah, you might do that a couple of times. So just kind of rolling up towards the lower back so that the lower back becomes flat and you feel sort of the top edge of the sacrum. And then slowly rolling back and down towards the coccyx or the end of the sacrum. Nice. And then just very slowly start to move across. So from side to side, just very slowly. Gently rolling. Your knees might move a little bit. You might feel a little bit of a sort of clunk. So there's a slightly higher portion of the bony part of your pelvis on one side that maybe dips slightly into the middle where the sacrum is. Good. Okay, and then once you've done that a couple of times and kind of get gauging sort of the shape of your own pelvic bones, right? See if maybe one feels higher than the other or they feel kind of even. Just gently come back to center and just slightly lift your toes off the ground. So you're just kind of floating there. You'll feel almost like a little bit more weight drop down and back into the pelvis. Yeah. And then bring your knees all the way up into the chest. Good, without holding if you can. So keep the arms sort of soft by your sides. And then again, we're going to make little, quite small circles. So just rotating the knees around. Yeah, and just kind of continuing on with that same sort of intention of feeling into the shape of your own pelvis, right? We're going to work with this sense today. There being different parts of the pelvis and how that changes our experience of how we practice some of the more dynamic shapes. Good. Okay, then from there, just taking the rotation in the opposite direction just for a couple of rounds. Yeah, good. Nice and slow. Just noticing if you feel any movement as well, or how your pelvis sort of organizes itself as you move the knees around. Good. Okay, and then when you come back to center next, just lower your left leg to the ground. The sole of the foot will come onto the earth, and then bring your right knee in towards you. And you can kind of hold onto the right knee, but try not to sort of pull it in towards you. And then extend the left leg away. So find the center point of the heel of your left foot, point the left toes up. So you kind of feel like you're sort of reaching through the sole of the left foot. And then maybe lift the foot away from the ground, lift the head and shoulders away from the ground of your, yeah, good. And then try to avoid sort of pulling yourself with this arm. So it's kind of just floating here. You might even just extend the arms forward. So you're lifting, you'll feel a little bit of work happening in your abdomen here, yeah? The leg can be higher or lower, wherever feels good. Nice, and then just gently relax all the way back down. We'll do that a couple of times. So just keeping this right leg soft and in towards the chest. And then float the left foot away from the ground, press through the heel, and then lift head and shoulders away from the ground. You could reach forward, you could hold, but try not to hang off your leg. So you're lifting a little bit more. Good. And then exhale, gently release down. You should feel a little bit of work happening now, a little bit of warmth building perhaps. So last one on this side. So just floating the left foot away from the ground, reach through the heel and lift head and shoulders. Good. You might be able to lift a little bit higher with the head and shoulders. Just kind of see what your body wants to do today, what the energy is like in your body, and then gently release. Good. Okay, so keep hold of that right knee. So it's like in towards you. And then just start to take your left hand onto your left sort of bony bit of your pelvis. And just start to make really tiny circles with your right knee. And just kind of see what happens under your left hand. So trying to sort of stabilize through the left side as you find a little bit of sort of movement through the right side. Just notice that it's how it's connected. Yeah. Good. Nice. Okay. And then gently just letting go of that movement, extend the right leg forward, draw the left knee in towards you. Good. Okay, so we just begin with that sort of pressing or finding of the center point of the right heel, toes reaching up, foot really pressing forward. So there's an energetic movement as though you're trying to make that leg nice and long. And then flip the foot away from the ground. Lift the head and shoulders. And again, your choice. You could be sort of holding the leg or reaching forward. You'll feel that in your core. Good. We'll stay for just a breath or two, or just until you feel like, yep, that's good. And then you can soften down. And we'll do it just 2 more times in your own sort of pacing. Yeah. So floating the foot, lifting perhaps a little bit higher each time. The back of the neck feels quite long, the chin slightly in. Yes, good. And last one, lifting. Good. And then this time when you lower down, just take hold of that left shin and place your right hand onto the bony bit of your front of your right pelvis. And then just make really tiny circles. It's more just to kind of really get a sense of when one leg is doing something, how stable can we keep that other sort of hip? Yeah, almost like trying to get them to have their own independent kind of experience, even ever so slightly. You might notice that one side is able to stabilize more easily. It's just interesting. Good. Okay. So we're going to do one more thing here while we're on our backs. So place your left leg down and bend your right knee once again. Okay, and then just gently allow take your hand onto your right hip once again, and allow your right knee to just drop as far out to the side without lifting your left hip off the ground, and just stay there for maybe like 2 or 3 breaths. Notice that left hip might want to lift, and just notice the connection between the inner thigh of the right leg and the inner thigh of the left leg. Good. And then just gently come back up. We'll do the other side. Just kind of noticing the movement there and any points of tension. So this time the left knee will drop out to the side as you keep the right hip stable. Yeah, and it won't touch the ground. We're not really aiming for it to touch the ground. Nice. Good. Okay. Gently bring that up through to center. And then you have a couple of choices. You could roll to the side and come up to standing. Oh, sorry, standing. Come up to hands and knees. Or you could roll to the side, roll back and forth, and come all the way up to seated. And then we'll come into this little sort of tabletop shape. Yeah. From there, just take a couple little movements to your hips, maybe rock them from side to side or make little rotations just to kind of get a sense of the pelvis in this new space, unsupported by the ground. Yeah, nice. Okay, and then just come back to center, tuck the toes under. Bring the knees a little bit wide and the feet a little bit wide. We're going to come into like a wide-legged downward facing dog. So press the ground away through the hands. Lift the hips. Feel almost like you're sort of reaching your sit bones in opposite directions. So there's a kind of broadening of the pelvis. You might have a little bend in your knees. You might start to pedal out through the backs of the legs. But we're just sort of exploring a different variation on down dog that is a little bit wider. Just see how that feels. Maybe notice if it feels kind of more spacious, or maybe it doesn't feel good at all. And you could just bring your feet a little bit narrower if that feels better. Good. Nice. Okay. And then, so if you're moving, just pausing the movements. We're going to take a little in-breath and sort of feel this kind of undulation of the spine as you move forward into a plank position. Reach through the crown of the head, send the heels back behind you. And then we're going to come into kind of a variation on up dog. So first lower the knees, drop the thighs to the ground, take a little bend in the elbows if you need to. So it's quite a deep back bend. Put the chest forward and through, soften the shoulders. You could lift the thighs away from the ground. We can just keep them down just for a moment. If you like, you can find a little bit of movement here, maybe from side to side. And then tuck the toes under, lift back up to your plank, and all the way back to downward facing dog. And again, you could take the feet narrower now if you like, but have a nice sense of what is happening to the pelvis. So see if you can imagine a little bit of space to the fronts of your hip flexors, sort of drawing up and in, lifting the sitting bones high, and then take an inhale, come forward once again into your clawing position. Good, so you can take that same variation we did again, or you could roll forward, stay on the toes, so you drop into quite a deep back bend. Just make sure that feels okay in your back. You can drop the knees if that feels better. Good. Roll over and back and up into your down dog. We'll take that a few times. So inhale, come forward, rolling, undulating through the spine, and then exhale, lower the hips down. So deep back bend, staying on the toes, or coming onto your knees. Exhale, press back. Just nice and smooth. See how sort of smooth you can make it. How spacious you can make it as well, right? So it doesn't feel compressive at any point, particularly in the back. Yeah, good. Broaden the collarbones. Nice. And then this will be the last one. So pressing back, downward dog. Excellent. Okay. From there, take your right leg, just allow it to sort of move up and getting a sense of the pelvis, the shape of the pelvis here. So that right side of your pelvis is slightly lifting higher than the left, right? See if you can sense into that. You could lift a little bit higher as well, just nice. Maybe take a little bend in your knees and just see what that does to your pelvis. Takes it into a little angle. Yeah, and then level the hips off. Step the right foot forward and through, lightly landing in between the hands. Okay, take a little soft bend into your back knee, so you just find that kind of buoyancy. Press down through your right big toe, inhale, lift up, high lunge. Then from there, sort of press back through your left heel, so you have a sense that the left sitting bone is sort of reaching down and back towards that left heel. Reach up a little bit higher through the arms. You just get a sense of space and length through both sides of the body. Exhale, bring the hands down and step the right foot back into your downward facing dog. Take a moment to adjust if you need to. Maybe still stretching out through the hamstrings. Then take an in-breath, float the left leg up, feeling more into the pelvis. So what is the pelvis doing? The left side of the pelvis slightly lifting higher than the right. Maybe there's a little bend in the knee. And then exhale, step it forward and through, lightly landing. Get a sense that this left hip is now moved forward. Press down into the big toe, ball edge of the big toe. Inhale, rise up, there's a little bend in your back knee. And then from there, you're sending the back edge of the right pelvis down and back towards that back heel. This pelvis movement, right? Reaching through the arms. Exhale, hands come down, set back, downward facing dog. Good. Breathing into the belly. As you breathe in, right leg floats away from the ground. Reaching up and then step it lightly forward and through into the hands. Take an inhale, rise up. This time, drop your back heel to the ground. Press into the back edge of your back foot. And then we'll take one hand into the front of the pelvis and one hand onto the back. And then we're going to adjust. So just make sure there's sort of a neutral position for the pelvis. So you'll feel the sacrum sort of lengthen down, bend in your front knee, and then extend the arms out wide. Soften through the shoulders. Maybe take a deeper bend into that front knee. Notice what's happening through the pelvis here. Good. Reach forward through the front fingertips. Take a little flip of your palm to lift up and open out. So your left hand could be above or below your left knee, or you might reach it around behind, and you could actually take hold of the kind of inner right thigh and sort of draw that inner thigh open a little bit. Lengthening through the side body. Good. Inhale, come back through. Lower both hands down and step it back. Downward facing dog. Breathing here. Good. Take that left leg into the air. So again, thinking about the pelvis lifting. Then exhale, step forward and through. Lightly land. Take a little bend in the back knee, lift up. Excellent. This time the back heel will drop to the ground as you open out. If you have a good sense of where your pelvis is, you can just kind of orientate it yourself. But if you like that kind of using the hands to position it, just feel if you can find that neutral shape. So the tailbone is sort of lengthening. Yeah, nice. The front knee is tracking over your second or third toe, and the arms just soften out. Yeah, that looks really good. Maybe take a deeper bend in the front knee, only if that feels right. It's going to work the back of the thigh a little bit more. Good, and then we're reaching forward through the front fingertips. Flip the palm and reverse. Excellent. And then those options with the back arm. If you can reach that right arm around and maybe take hold, or maybe just feel the side of your hip, pelvis. It's kind of bony nodule of the pelvis. Nice. Gently release and come all the way back through. Bring both hands down, step it back. Downward facing dog. Take a little in-breath, come forward into your plank shape. And then exhale, lower through. Stay on the toes. So it's like a little variation of up dog. Exhale, press, lift from the sitting bones, send the hips all the way back, downward dog. Take a little in-breath, lift the right leg. Exhale, step it forward and through. Take a little in-breath, lift up, feel the pelvis square to the front. And then exhale, back, heel down, pelvis open out. Reaching forward and back. This time, reach your right arm forward. Take the right elbow just above the right knee. This time, you're going to take your attention to your right sitting bone. It's going to press sort of forward and to the left, so you're broadening through the pelvis here. Still pressing into the back edge of your back foot. And this left arm is going to reach down and forward, extending through the side of the body. You should feel maybe like a little stretch at the top of the hip, right? These muscular structures that stabilize the pelvis, finding a little bit of sort of space there. Good. And then exhale, bring both hands down to the inside of your right foot. Back toe is going to pivot around to face forward. Take a little squeeze into your left glute as you draw the chest a little bit further forward and through. See if you can kind of hug your right knee in a little bit. The pelvis is kind of stabilizing here. Exhale, press back, downward facing dog. Good. Take the left leg into the air. Step it forward and through. Nice. Take a little inhale, lift. Good. Back heel drops to the ground. Opening out. Yeah. And then reach forward slightly. Taking your left elbow this time, just above the left knee. See if you can feel a sense that that left lower sitting bone is sort of pressing to the right. So you get that broadening of the pelvis. And again, it's almost like the two parts are sort of doing slightly different things. And how does that feel? How can you remain in a stable sort of shape? Good. Exhale, gently release. Both hands come down to the inside of that front foot. Back toes pivot to face forward. Squeeze your right glute this time as you draw the chest forward and through. And then exhale, press back, downward facing dog. Take an inhale, come forward, find position. We're going to take a full sort of traditional chaturanga now. So pull the ground towards you. Squeeze the inner thighs, get a sense of what the pelvis is doing here as well. Exhale, lower through. Keep everything nice and stable. Inhale, lift. And exhale, Press all the way back, downward facing dog. Good. Take that right leg, float it into the air. Step it forward and through. Inhale, lift. Exhale, back heel down, open out. Reach forward, flip the palm, we'll come into the reverse warrior once again. And inhale, come back through, back to center. Pivot the back toes around, and then sweep the arms out wide, thinking of reaching out from the shoulders. Lean the weight forward into that front foot. Lean, lean, lean until the back toes start to slide forward and through. And then bend your left knee. Bring it all the way forward and through, lifting up. Palms come to touch. And then you're going to hook the left leg sort of around the right. Yeah. You could hook the feet, the toes, or you could just keep them to the side. And then sink a little deeper, as though you're sort of feeling the sitting bones kind of broaden back and down. Yeah. And then from there, instead of just kind of hanging out in the balance, see if you could, at the same time, squeeze the thighs in towards each other. So you're sort of hugging in. The inner thighs touch. Good. And then gently press down into that standing leg. So it should be the right leg, lifting the knee up and in towards you. Send it all the way back behind. So we're going to take the warrior three here, reaching it back behind you. Check out what your pelvis is doing. Keep it level. Arms could go wide or forward or by the sides. But sending that heel back behind you as you reach forward through the crown of the head. Then exhale, gently lower, back toes to the ground. Reach the arms all the way up, lifting and lengthening. You might even take it into a slight back bend, but make sure there's no compression. You're lifting rather than squashing. Inhale back through to center. Exhale, hands to the earth, step back. Maybe down dog. Maybe you take a little flow, coming forward. Chaturanga. Up dog. And down dog. Good. Okay, left leg rises. I step it forward and through. Inhale, lift. Back heel lowers down. Warrior two, Virabhadrasana 2. Reach forward, flip the palm, take that nice little just soft reverse. Finding extension through the left side of the body. Good. And then coming back through. Pivot the back toes around, take the arms out wide. And you're shifting the weight forward into that front foot. So this time, leaning forward so the back toes slide in. Lifting the leg all the way up and in towards you, palms come to touch. And then you're hooking that leg around. It should be left, right over left. Yeah, good. And then see if you can sit back and down, feel the kind of sense of the pelvis broadening. And then this time, see if you can sort of feel as though you're trying to pull the legs apart. You're like pulling the left leg to the left and pulling the right leg to the right. Like they're trying to escape the bind. Yeah. Good, gently release. Press down into that standing leg. Lift up. And send that leg all the way back behind you. Warrior three. See where your pelvis is, adjust it so it's more or less parallel to the earth. Reaching forward, back, to the sides, the palms stay touching. And then gently release, lower the foot down, lower the hands down, step back. You might like to take a little flow, or maybe straight back to downward facing dog. Good. Beautiful. Okay, from there, take a little bend in your knees, a lift of the heels, and you can look forward, and if you're feeling bouncy, maybe hop yourself forward. If you're feeling more like just walking, do that. So when you arrive, just take a little forward fold. So you might take the feet a little bit wider, just to get a sense of the shape of the pelvis a little bit more broadly. Catch hold of opposite elbows, opposite hands. We take a little sway. Head is heavy. Breath into the belly. Good, and then slow rise up. So maybe the hands get nice and heavy as you sort of unfurl the spine. Coming all the way through to standing. Soften the shoulders. Okay, from there, we're going to do a few little squats. Okay, so we're going to start wide. So you might bring your feet out as wide as your mat to begin with, or a little bit wider if you like, if you feel more stable in a wider squat shape. And you can reach the arms forward, and we're just going to sink down. So you might come maybe all the way down, just as far as you can, so you know you can come back up. And then power down through the legs, pressing down to slow rise all the way up. Good. Okay, and then move your feet in, maybe like an inch closer. And again, exhale, slow, lower down. Just notice how that slight change in foot position changes the experience. And then again, power down through the feet, through the legs, to rise yourself up. Good. Okay, we're going to keep going in until you come to sort of a place where you feel like, yeah, that's not happening anymore. All the way down, pressing up. You might be able to get the feet in super close with no problem at all. Or just stay where you find your limit. The feet come all the way in. Good. Okay, once you've found your spot, then take one more. And then gently come all the way up through to standing, relax the arms. Give yourself a little shake out. We lost Kate and James. Good. Just wait for them to pop back in. Were you trying to escape the squats?
Sorry.
Right. So from there, let's take a really wide-legged position. So you could just step back wide onto your mat. And then take your hands onto your hips. Just get a sense of the pelvis. See if you can feel sort of these front muscles, your abdominals, sort of lift up, sort of out of the pelvis, yeah? And then keep that sensation as you come forward about halfway. You feel really stable. Pelvis is slightly tipping. Send the sitting bones back. Again, see if you can, if it feels okay, imagine that these sitting bones are sort of reaching in opposite directions, but at the same time, see if you could pull up through the fronts of your thighs. If you feel engaged through the quads, yeah? Quads engaged, abdominals engaged, and sort of broadening of the sitting bones. If you feel that little pull at the very top of the hamstring, that's not a good place to be. So you could just bring the sitting bones a little bit closer, or the outer edges of your pelvis sort of feel like they hug in a little bit more. And then allow the upper body to sort of fold all the way forward and down. And again, you might enjoy that sort of sense of broadening. Sitting bones feel wider apart. Or maybe you take the instruction to squeeze in through the inner heels. So you just get a little bit more engagement through the backs of the thighs. Let's take 3 nice breaths here. Maybe the hands come to the ground. Yeah. And maybe the weight shifts a little bit forward. Good. And then nice and slowly, just start to lift your head halfway up. We'll walk the hands over towards that right knee, bend into the right knee a little bit. So you feel the pelvis sort of drop down. Then inhale, come back through center, walking over to the left knee. And again, sort of taking a little stretch, but also allowing the pelvis to drop a little further down. And back through again. Sinking down. Might be that you lift onto the heel of your extended leg. Back through center. Heel of the opposite leg. Good. One more time to each side, just wherever you come to, it's perfect. And then come all the way back through to center. Take the hands back onto those bony sort of nodules in front of your pelvis. Squeeze the heels in, maybe turn the heels all the way in as well. Press the hips forward so you get a sense of the pelvis now in a sort of neutral position once again. And then you could sink down a little bit deeper if that feels right. You can stay a little bit higher if that feels better. Allow the arms to be quite soft. Or you could be more active, extending the arms out. We'll hang out here for a few breaths. Reaching, maybe sinking, feeling that nice sort of sense of the pelvis being sort of held by all these structures of your legs and your upper body. And then press down through the feet, from all the way up through to standing and release. Nice. Okay, so you could heel toe the feet in a little bit closer. So you come back to standing. You might step to the top of the mat once again. Take a little in breath. We'll reach up through the arms this time. You can look towards the hands. Reach through the palms, press down through the feet. Exhale, fold the body forward. Chest to thighs, forehead to shins. Little in breath, halfway lift. Hands to the earth. Step back, down dog, or take yourself through a little flow. Either way, we'll find our way back to a downward facing dog shape. Take your gaze to look forward, bend the knees, lift the heels. We're going to step walk or take a little hop into a seated position. So you might fold the legs in front and then come down to seated. Good. Okay, from there, we're going to take a little, bring your right leg, sole of the foot, to the inner thigh. It's like setting up for Janu Shirsasana. Yeah, and then you're going to lift your left sitting bone away from the ground and then lower it. So it's just a lift and a lower. One hip is lifting and then lowering. Good. Just a very subtle movement. Excellent. Okay, then take your left hand. See if you can kind of locate your sitting bone. So you'll feel it's like that little bony bit at the kind of top of your hamstring. And then see if you can sort of draw the hip back. And as you draw the sitting bone back, see if that gives you a little bit more space to then more easily come down and forward. So then rather than sort of pulling or forcing yourself forward, you just come to a place wherever you arrive here. Have that sense of that sitting bone sort of drawing down and back more, and see if that gives you more space to come forward. Also anchoring down through the right sitting bone. Relaxing the head. You need to have a little bend in your knee, you can. Good. And then slowly walk the hands all the way back. We'll swap the legs out. So taking left sole of foot. Good. And then we'll just start with that slight movement. So the hip is just lifting and lowering. It's going to be doing whatever. I'm just resting. Just getting a sense of sort of tipping of the pelvis and back. Good. Okay, and then taking your right hand, see if you can locate your sitting bone. Let's see if you can sort of encourage that sitting bone back. And as you do, you get a little bit more space to come forward. And we're not forcing or really engaging anything for this one, just kind of seeing where you come to with that slight adjustment to the pelvis. Head is relaxing. Good, and then slowly walk your hands back in and come back through to seated. So look at your block now. So we're going to sit up onto the block, just right onto the edge of it. And take the soles of the feet together. So as you're here, see if once again you can tune into a sense of the sort of shape of your own pelvis and the heads of the thigh bones. So where they sit in their little hip socket, this little acetabulum. See if you can almost feel as though you could sort of hug them up and in towards that little pocket a little bit more. And as you do so, see if that gives you more space to then release down and forward. So your pelvis will be slightly lifted, just tipping forward and down here. And we'll stay for a couple of breaths. Good. Okay, when you feel ready, gently starting to walk yourself back up and in. And gather the knees together. Good. So come off your block now, and we'll take the right leg out in front once again and fold the left leg back. So it's not a 99, it's a little bit further back. So you're opening out through this one hip, and this section of the pelvis is sort of forward. It's almost like a little variation on pigeon. And then you could have a little play, walking your hands over towards your right side. So you take a little twist away from the pelvis. Walk your hands over towards that left knee. Kind of moving the torso around. And see where you find maybe something interesting happening. So for instance, when I come over towards my left leg, I start to feel a little stretch just to the top of my hip. And I might stay there for a couple of breaths, just to almost consciously try to release that little sticky point. Again, just staying for a couple of breaths. And then gently walking your hands back around to center. We'll see if we can change that without using the hands. So just flipping it around. Excellent. Good. Okay, so once again, we'll start just by having a little sort of exploration of where, and you know, it might be that there's not really any tension. It's so perfect. You might just find something that feels kind of nice. You could just stay there for a couple of breaths. Good. Keep it moving. Movement is so nice. Good, and then gently make your way back through to center. Undo the legs, bring them back in, and then we're going to come all the way down onto the back. So just a slow release down, make sure you have your block somewhere nearby. Releasing down. Okay, walk your feet in a little bit closer. And we're just going to start by pressing into the feet and just lifting the hips. Drop the weight back towards your shoulders, reach the knees forward. Just having a sense that you're kind of stretching out through the front body and slightly activating the back body. And then relax the glutes. So you might notice that they kind of switch on, relax them. And that might feel like the pelvis drops a little bit. And in that sort of dropping space, see if you can just give your hips a little sort of movement from side to side. So that almost, I think of it like you're hanging out in a little hammock. Hammock of your body. Gently rocking them from side to side. Good. Okay, and then keep the hips lifted. See if you can locate your block. And then you could either, just beyond that sort of first level, you could lift it up to the second level, or you could come all the way to that third level. But try to have it situated onto the sort of top of the sacrum. Not above the sacrum, but on it. Yeah. Great. And then the arms can rest by the sides or onto your body, whatever feels good. And then gently, see if you can, wherever you are, lift your right knee up and in towards you. So the front of the thighs are dropping in towards the chest. And then we'll extend that right leg. It could be further in front of you, could be straight up. Doesn't really matter. And then you're just going to make very nice and slow sort of articulations of that right ankle. Just kind of feeling into the sort of a pain-free range of movement. So as far to the outer edges as you can. Good. Going nice and slow. Good, and then go the opposite direction as well. Nice, okay, so just finishing that little round of circles. And then see if you can bend your right knee and then catch hold of your right ankle with your right hand and sort of fold your foot back. So that's pointing back behind you. It's going to stretch the front of the quad a little bit more. So again, just thinking about all the ways that the pelvis is supported. All the structures that lead out from the pelvis. If that doesn't feel good, you might either try lowering your block down, or if you feel any pulling in the knee, you might just kind of scrap that one. Good. And then very gently helping that right leg to come back out. We'll do the same on the left side. So let's begin by first lifting the left knee in towards your chest. And then move the leg straight up or extend it out in front. And then really nice, slow movements through that ankle joint. Nice. Make sure you go in both directions. Good. And then once you've done about equal amounts on both sides, see if you can bend your left knee, catching hold of the ankle, and sort of fold the foot back a little bit. Yeah. You're getting also like a little stretch through the top of the foot. Good. Nice. And then nice and gently we'll start to release that. So you can help the foot out. Nice. And then gently press into the feet so you can lift the hips above your block. And slide it out and softly release your back onto the earth. And we'll take a little pause there, just feeling the sacrum reconnect down to the ground. Good. Okay. Slide your left leg long towards the end of your mat, and then bring your right knee in and across the body to the left hand side. So you take just a very simple twist. You might use the left hand to sort of anchor that right knee down a little bit, anchoring your right shoulder down, just coming as far as feels right, feeling that little stretch across tops of the hips, the rib cage. Good. And then bringing the knee back through, extending the right leg away. Bring the left knee in and just taking it across the body, just very simple twist. Left arm extends maybe or stays wherever feels right. And then gently bring your left knee back through to center. And bring both knees in, and this time you could hug your arms around the knees. And then just take a few little rounds of either rocking back and forth or from side to side. Just coming back into that sort of exploration of your sacrum and pelvis. Good. Beautiful. And then we will make our way into Shavasana. So if you need any little extra things to make you more comfortable here, might be even let the knees stay bent if that feels right for your lower back. And just having a sense that the whole body can completely yield into the ground, no effort. Take a deep breath in through the nose and a soft breath out through the mouth. To feel a full and untrammeled joy is to have become fully generous. To allow ourselves to be joyful is to have walked through the doorway of fear. The dropping away of the anxious, worried self felt like a thankful death itself. A disappearance, a giving away, overheard in the laughter of friendship. The vulnerability of happiness felt suddenly as a strength, a solace, and a source. The claiming of our place in the living conversation. The sheer privilege of being in the presence of a mountain, a sky, or a well-loved familiar face. I was here, and you were here, and together we made a world. Gently beginning to find a little bit of movements, whatever feels right for you, wiggling or stretching. You might just roll to the side and sit up. And we'll meet in a comfortable seat. Taking just a final moment to acknowledge your body, to acknowledge your good intention for arriving bright and early onto your mat today to practice. And then we bow forward to acknowledge one another as we create this world together. Namaste. Zoe, Laura, Kate, James.